Many people don't realize this, but Australia is home to over 10,000 beaches spread across 50,000 kilometers of coastline. With a staggering 85% of Australians living near the beach, these coastal havens serve as prime tourist attractions, inviting visitors with promises of clear blue waters, fresh salty air, and the warm embrace of golden sand beneath their feet. For most, the beach symbolizes serenity, freedom, and beauty. However, for the Cordingley family, the beach stands as a haunting reminder of a crime that left them scarred with pain and despair forever. On October 21, 2018, 24-year-old Toyah Cordingley was enjoying a beautiful sunny afternoon at Wangetti Beach, a secluded spot located about 38 kilometers from her hometown of Cairns, Queensland. Accompanied by her beloved dog Indy, Toyah was simply minding her own business as she walked along the shore. But what began as a leisurely day quickly turned into a nightmare. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Toyah never returned home. Alarmed and worried, her loved ones sprang into action the following morning, desperately searching for her. Tragically, what they discovered was not the happy reunion they had hoped for. They found Toyah's lifeless body. The entire community of Cairns was engulfed in horror and disbelief at Toyah's tragic end. The shockwaves of her disappearance rippled through the small town, leaving a palpable sense of unease among its residents. Questions loomed large. Why was Toyah attacked? Who could have committed such a heinous act? What circumstances led to this horrific incident? The case of Toyah Cordingley is not only shocking but profoundly depressing. While Australia may be thousands of miles away for many of us, this tragedy hits too close to home, serving as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities we face in even the most serene of settings. The victim. If you're watching this video, chances are you have an interest in true crime. If that's the case, you'll likely want to follow this channel, True Crime Stories, so take a moment to hit that subscribe button below. It's completely free and will keep you updated on all my future cases. Toyah Jade Cordingley was born on June 14, 1994, to parents Troy and Vanessa in Cairns, Queensland. As the only child of her parents, she enjoyed a close-knit family life, which unfortunately was short-lived. When Toyah was still very young, her parents divorced. Despite their separation, Toyah's parents loved her dearly and tried to provide her with a stable and nurturing environment. Troy eventually remarried a woman named Mary, while Vanessa found love with a man named Darren Gardner and had 2 more children, Jack and Lena. Even though divorce can have a significant impact on children, Toyah seemed to adapt well to her new family dynamics. She was excited to have 2 families and even developed a great relationship with her step-siblings. Toyah's family and friends described her as carefree, adventurous, and vivacious. She had a warm and loving personality, always the first to say yes to new experiences and challenges. Toyah's love for life was evident in her eclectic interests and bold style choices. She had a fascination with fairies and all things mystical, which often reflected in her vibrant hair colors. In October 2018, she sported icy blonde hair, a departure from her usual bright shades like pink or purple. The Cordingley Gardner family was no stranger to expressing their individuality. Toyah's parents adorned themselves with tattoos and unique hairstyles, and they raised their daughter in an environment that celebrated self-expression. Toyah thrived in this atmosphere, exhibiting a confidence and authenticity that endeared her to everyone around her. Her love for animals was profound. Toyah took a job as a kennel attendant at Paws and Claws Refuge and Boarding Center in Port Douglas, where she could channel her passion for caring for animals. This love was poignantly encapsulated in her last social media post, made just days before her tragic death, which read, "No matter how talented, rich, or intelligent you are, how you treat animals tells me all I need to know about you." Her commitment to animal welfare didn't go unnoticed. Paws and Claws counselor Michael Kerr referred to her as a beautiful, loving soul and praised her ability to calm even the most aggressive dogs within minutes, highlighting her natural affinity for animals. In addition to her work with animals, Toyah was also employed at Whole Life Pharmacy in Earlville, a suburb of Cairns. However, her heart remained with her furry friends, and she continued to volunteer at animal shelters while keeping various pets of her own. Toyah was deeply committed to her personal relationships as well. She was in a loving 2-year relationship with a man named Marco. Their bond was strengthened by their shared love for animals, and they often spent time together caring for their own pets. Toyah's family adored Marco, and they were thrilled to see her so happy. The couple shared a home with their pets, including Indy, their gentle giant dog, a mix of German Shepherd, Mastiff, and Great Dane. Life seemed perfect for Toyah, filled with love, adventure, and companionship. But tragically, this idyllic existence would soon be shattered by an unimaginable event that struck the Cordingley family on that fateful day in October. As Toyah's story unfolds, the circumstances surrounding her disappearance raise numerous questions, not just about her untimely death, but also about the inherent dangers that can lurk even in the most picturesque settings. This is a case that underscores the fragility of life and the importance of vigilance, even in places that are supposed to represent safety and joy. The crime. On the fateful Sunday of October 21, 2018, Toyah Cordingley began her day like any other. A 24-year-old full of life, she had errands to run and planned to take her beloved dog, Indy, for a walk along Wangetti Beach, a secluded stretch of sand about 38 kilometers north of her hometown of Cairns, Queensland. Known for its pristine beauty and tranquil surroundings, the beach was a favorite local getaway, a stark contrast to the horrors that would soon unfold. Earlier that day, Toyah had worked her shift at Whole Life Pharmacy, where she was known for her warm smile and vibrant personality. During her shift, she handed out samples of camel milk. Yes, you heard that right, an unusual yet intriguing product. After her work, she visited Rusty's Market to pick up some fresh produce for dinner, captured on CCTV footage around midday, carrying a colorful basket and wearing a light crochet top with her hair tied up. After finishing her errands, Toyah returned home and informed her partner, Marco, of her plans to head to the beach with Indy. She left their residence around 2:30 p.m., driving her blue 2009 Mitsubishi Lancer, parking near the southern entrance of the beach. The area was remote, with a sprawling 4-kilometer coastline and minimal facilities aside from a parking lot. Toyah and Indy began their walk, but little did anyone know it would be the last time she was seen alive. As evening descended and the sun began to set, Marco grew increasingly concerned about Toyah's absence. Hours passed without a word from her, and as the darkness deepened, so did his worry. By 9 p.m., he called Toyah's stepbrother, Jack, to check if she had arrived at his place. When Jack revealed that Toyah was still missing, they both rushed to inform their mother, Vanessa. A wave of dread washed over Vanessa upon hearing her son's anxious tone. Something was terribly wrong. They quickly contacted the police to report Toyah missing at approximately 10:50 p.m. Meanwhile, Vanessa and Jack began searching the neighborhood and reaching out to friends and family, hoping for any sign of Toyah. Despite the police's recommendation to wait until morning to begin a search, citing the dangers of searching in the dark, Vanessa and her family were unwilling to rest. They needed to act fast, driven by an overwhelming sense of urgency. The following day, October 22, Toyah's family returned to Wangetti Beach, equipped with flashlights and an unyielding hope that she would be found safe. Upon arriving, they noticed something that gave them a sliver of optimism. Toyah's car was still parked at the beach. This meant she hadn't left the area, igniting hope that she might still be out there. However, as they searched the shoreline, their optimism was soon extinguished. As they walked along the beach, they found Indy, Toyah's loyal dog, tied tightly to a tree. The sight of the distressed animal raised alarms. Toyah would never have left Indy in such a manner. Her love for animals was well known, and this act felt like a disturbing sign. Troy and Vanessa quickly freed Indy by cutting the leash, desperately hoping for some clarity on Toyah's whereabouts. While Vanessa went to charge her phone, as it had died earlier, Troy continued the search along the beach. What he discovered next was a horror no parent should ever have to face. As the tide receded, Troy noticed something unusual protruding from the sand. As he approached, a sickening realization settled in. It was a human foot. Tragically, it was Toyah's body, buried in a shallow grave, just 800 meters away from where her car was parked. The sight was harrowing. Toyah was found partially disrobed, her body marred with violent injuries that suggested a brutal attack, possibly involving a knife. Troy's heart shattered as he stood before his only child, lifeless and taken from him in such a horrific manner. He soon informed Vanessa of the heartbreaking discovery, and she was plunged into a deep state of shock and grief. The reality that her daughter was gone, taken from her in such a cruel way, was unimaginable. The sight of Toyah's injuries meant that Vanessa couldn't even say goodbye. The emotional weight of that moment was indescribable. The tragedy sent shockwaves through Cairns. Toyah was loved by many and was known for her kindness and vibrant spirit. Friends and family described her as a gentle soul who had no enemies. As news of her untimely death spread, fear gripped the community. Who could have committed such an atrocious act? Was the perpetrator still at large? The uncertainty created an atmosphere of dread as everyone tried to come to terms with the reality that a beloved member of their community had been taken in such a violent and senseless manner. Queensland detectives sprang into action, determined to uncover the truth behind Toyah's murder. They faced the daunting task of piecing together the events that led to her death, all while a community mourned and searched for answers. The questions lingered. Who would do such a thing? And why? The Cordingley family and the people of Cairns were left grappling with their grief, haunted by the memory of a young woman whose life had been tragically cut short on a beach that should have been a sanctuary. The case would soon draw national attention, prompting an investigation into the unspeakable crime and the search for justice for Toyah Cordingley. The investigation. Even though Wangari Beach was a picturesque location, it held an unsettling history that raised concerns about safety, particularly for women. Multiple reports had emerged over the years detailing unsettling encounters where young women, including Toyah's best friend Megan, were subjected to lewd behavior by men lurking in the bushes. These incidents ranged from men exposing themselves to outright indecency, compelling many women to flee in fear. The beach, a remote area surrounded by dense foliage and a busy highway, became notorious as a haven for predators. Given that Toyah was alone that fateful day, aside from her dog, Indy, these alarming precedents cast a shadow over the investigation. As the investigators delved into the tragedy that had befallen Toyah, her funeral on November 2, 2018, provided a somber gathering for family, friends, and the community. Hundreds came to pay their respects to a bright young woman whose life had been cut tragically short. Among the mourners was Marco, Toyah's boyfriend, who attended the funeral with Indy, the dog who had been with Toyah on the day she was attacked. There's a poignant irony to the fact that while people often joke about dogs being able to talk, the reality in this case was heart-wrenching. Indy likely witnessed the horrific events unfold but would never be able to share what had transpired. The aftermath of Toyah's passing saw investigators conduct a thorough examination of Wangari Beach. They sealed off the area, deploying divers and K-9 units to search for any additional evidence that might lead them to Toyah's assailant. Police gathered DNA samples, reviewed surveillance footage, and meticulously combed through forensics and witness reports. They even tracked cell tower activity to ascertain the whereabouts of individuals who might have been at the beach that day. Initially, investigators looked into individuals close to Toyah, including her boyfriend Marco and her stepfather Darren. However, both were quickly ruled out as suspects. They had solid alibis, and their relationships with Toyah suggested no motive for harm. Yet one perplexing aspect of the investigation raised eyebrows. Why was Indy left unharmed? It is uncommon for attackers to spare pets during such violent incidents, leading investigators to consider that the perpetrator may have been someone Toyah and Indy knew. Indy's demeanor played a crucial role in this theory. Despite being a large dog that could easily intimidate, Indy was known for her affectionate nature, even towards strangers. This raised the likelihood that Indy would not have reacted aggressively if Toyah's attacker had been someone familiar to them. The investigation quickly became extensive, including voluntary DNA tests from residents in the area surrounding the crime scene, aimed at narrowing down the list of suspects. In addition to traditional investigative methods, authorities reviewed traffic footage from the Captain Cook Highway, which overlooked Wangari Beach. After 6 months of meticulous analysis, a potential suspect emerged from the investigation. Dashcam footage revealed a suspicious vehicle swerving along the highway on the same day Toyah disappeared. When police ran the vehicle's license plates, they uncovered 2 shocking details. First, the car was not registered to any local resident, suggesting it belonged to a visitor. Secondly, and more alarmingly, the owner of the vehicle had left Australia on the very day of Toyah's disappearance, catching a flight to India. This revelation turned the investigation into a complex, cross-continental effort. With the suspect now overseas, authorities faced significant challenges in apprehending him and bringing him to justice. As the detectives sought to understand the connection between the suspect and Toyah, they began to uncover a tangled web of possibilities that could lead to answers for the grieving Cordingley family. The ramifications of Toyah's murder rippled through the community of Cairns, igniting fear and anger among residents who felt increasingly unsafe in their own neighborhoods. Friends and family members grappled with the loss of a vibrant life extinguished too soon. As they sought closure and justice, the investigation continued to uncover chilling clues, pointing to a dangerous predator who had evaded capture, leaving a haunting question hanging in the air: who had taken Toyah Cordingley from her family, and would they ever be brought to justice? In the weeks following Toyah's death, investigators worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading to that fateful day. Each new lead, every shred of evidence, propelled them closer to understanding the full extent of the tragedy that had unfolded at One Getty Beach. As the investigation pressed on, the hope of finding justice for Toyah Cordingley remained unwavering, a testament to the love and resilience of those who mourned her loss. The investigation. One Getty Beach, despite its picturesque beauty, harbored an unsettling history that made it dangerous for women. Numerous incidents had occurred where girls and young women, including Toyah's best friend Megan, had visited the beach only to encounter strange men lurking in the bushes, watching them. Some of these encounters escalated to indecent exposures and uncomfortable acts, forcing the girls to flee in fear and discomfort. The remote location, surrounded by dense shrubbery and adjacent to a highway, had turned One Getty Beach into a haven for predators. On that fateful day, Toyah was alone at the beach with only her dog, Indy. This raises the grim question: could one of these predators have attacked her? As investigators scored for clues to provide answers for the grieving Cordingley family, Toyah's funeral took place on November 2, 2018, drawing hundreds of mourners to pay their respects to a bright young woman whose life was tragically cut short. Among the attendees were Marco, Toyah's boyfriend, and Indy, the dog who had accompanied Toyah on that ill-fated day. If dogs could talk, one could only wonder what Indy might reveal, having witnessed the entire attack while remaining unscathed. Toyah was laid to rest surrounded by freshly picked flowers and the love of those she had touched. Meanwhile, investigators cordoned off the beach, deploying divers and K-9 units to seek any evidence related to her disappearance. They meticulously analyzed DNA, surveillance footage, forensics, and witness reports. Even cell tower activity from that day was scrutinized. Initially, suspects included Toyah's boyfriend Marco and her stepdad Darren, both of whom were quickly ruled out due to solid alibis and a lack of motive. A puzzling element of the investigation was Indy's survival. In many violent encounters, pets often suffer alongside their owners, but Indy's presence without harm suggested that the attacker could have been someone familiar to both Toyah and Indy. Investigators later discovered that Indy was inherently gentle and friendly, further supporting the idea that Toyah's assailant may have been someone she knew. The extensive investigation included voluntary DNA testing of residents near the crime scene and scrutiny of vehicles traveling down the Captain Cook Highway. After 6 months of painstaking analysis, investigators identified a suspect through dashcam footage and geolocation data: a car behaving erratically on the highway the day Toyah went missing. Running the plates revealed 2 shocking details. The car was registered outside the local area, suggesting a visitor, and its owner had flown to India on the day of Toyah's disappearance. The suspect. As the investigation zeroed in on Rajwinder Singh, a 34-year-old Indian man, the detectives learned he had moved from India to Queensland years prior and was employed as a geriatric nurse in a hospital near Cairns. Colleagues reported that Rajwinder had exhibited odd and withdrawn behavior in the weeks leading up to Toyah's disappearance, suffering from depression and isolating himself from social interactions. Upon visiting Rajwinder's home, police found his wife and 3 children, one a newborn. She reported that he had left Queensland on October 21, heading to Sydney before flying to India. His sudden departure and evasive actions heightened investigators' suspicions. Witnesses described Rajwinder as having scratches and bite marks on his face, neck, and hands, which raised alarm bells for detectives who theorized these injuries were inflicted by Toyah during a struggle. Collaboration between Australian and Indian law enforcement became necessary to extradite Rajwinder, but the process was lengthy and complicated. Australian authorities required robust evidence to present, including DNA collected from the crime scene, without alarming Rajwinder into fleeing again. The preparation of extradition documentation took nearly 2.5 years, during which Toyah's family grew increasingly frustrated at the slow march of justice. In a significant breakthrough, a $1 million reward for information about Rajwinder led to a tip-off. He was now reportedly part of a religious group, adopting a new appearance with a turban and a long beard, attempting to blend into his surroundings. A key piece of information indicated that Rajwinder planned to visit New Delhi for a doctor's appointment, giving detectives a narrow window to apprehend him. On November 25, 2022, nearly 4 years after Toyah's tragic death, Rajwinder was arrested in New Delhi. Surprisingly, he confessed to the crime in an Indian court, citing a vague yet chilling motive. He claimed that after a heated argument with his wife, he went to One Getty Beach to cool down, armed with a kitchen knife. Once there, after hearing Indy bark, Rajwinder confronted Toyah, leading to a brutal attack in a fit of rage. Evidence suggested Toyah fought valiantly for her life, but ultimately, Rajwinder overpowered her. After the attack, he buried her body in a shallow grave and tied Indy to a tree before fleeing. The sheer horror of Toyah's fate, a young woman simply enjoying a day at the beach, losing her life to a stranger over a minor altercation, stands as a heartbreaking reminder of the violence that can erupt in the most unexpected of circumstances. The aftermath. On January 24, 2023, a Delhi court approved the extradition of Rajwinder Singh, who, on February 28, flew from Delhi to Melbourne to face charges for the murder of 24-year-old Toyah Cordingley. By March 2023, he was officially charged with her murder. However, Rajwinder's defense was far from over. During a pre-trial hearing on May 1, 2024, evidence emerged revealing that Toyah had been in a secret relationship with Tyson Franklin, a psychologist she had met shortly before her death. The defense presented a series of text messages between Toyah and Tyson, where Toyah expressed her concerns about her boyfriend, Marco, saying he was angry at the world and projecting those emotions onto her. Tyson testified that he and Toyah had chemistry and had been in contact until her passing, mentioning that Toyah was contemplating moving out on her own. However, it later emerged that Tyson had initially downplayed their relationship to investigators after Toyah's disappearance. This new revelation sparked debate about the circumstances surrounding Toyah's death. While many still believe Rajwinder is responsible, citing his suspicious actions, like fleeing the country after Toyah's death and changing his appearance, some speculate that the real threat may have come from someone closer to Toyah. Though Marco was clear as a suspect early in the investigation, doubts lingered about Tyson's involvement. As the trial approaches, it has been postponed until February 2025, following a request from Rajwinder's attorney for more time to review evidence. The Cordingley family, who have endured years of uncertainty, is hopeful for justice. They have faced community backlash and harsh judgments over their lifestyle during this ordeal, which has only compounded their grief. Toyah's mother, Vanessa, expressed her heartbreak over the community's criticism, emphasizing that they only wish to live authentically. The tragic case serves as a chilling reminder that danger can lurk anywhere, with individuals like Rajwinder potentially walking among us unnoticed. As the trial date approaches, the Cordingley family seeks closure and answers, hoping that justice will finally prevail for Toyah, a vibrant woman whose life was tragically cut short.